When I was at law school, one of the areas that we covered was around human rights. And the subject, the cases were very interesting. And I thought this was an area that, I would take on after my law school. If we look at foundational education, the biggest challenges we have is that if foundational education is privately provided, we do not have the state involved in the provision of foundational learning, or what we call kindergarten schooling. So you find that many private actors, many of them are entrepreneurs, businessmen and women, just wake up and decide to start up foundational schools or kindergarten schools. This means that those who cannot afford to take their children to privately owned kindergartens will not have this kind of education for their children. And the problem is very rampant in the rural communities, because private owners do not want to set up schools in rural areas because they'll not be able to get profit. So the biggest problem is that we are having private provision of early learning childhood education left to the whims of market demand and supply. We recently had a report from the Education Policy Review Commission that had been commissioned by the Minister for Education. And some of the areas that this report brought about was the need for us to have at least a 1 year for early childhood development or early childhood education. That is a great hope. And then also secondly, is that we have the Uganda Law Reform Commission, and there are already processes that are geared towards reviewing the Education Act. And we see this also as a big opportunity or a big hope for us to get into the Education Act provisions that mandate the state to take on ownership of all forms of education and all levels of education, including foundational learning. To thank the Finnish government for the support they give contexts like ours, but to continue doing the good work and to continue funding, especially the education sector, to ensure that all children have access to quality education, regardless of their social and economic background, because all children deserve and no one must be left behind.